friends, Betty Rage here, your favorite nerdy goth mom, and this is Lashes in Lore, where we glam up and go deep into fantasy lore with more emotional damage than a Drow family reunion. Today, we finish the trilogy. This is it, the final chapter in the story of Drizzt Do'Urden, the most hunted, hated, and heartbreakingly heroic character in all of Dungeons & Dragons, in my opinion. And in this episode, he's not just defending the surface. He is returning to the Underdark to confront his past, to face his mother, to fight a demon-possessed version of his father, and to prove once and for all that the web of Lolth does not hold him anymore. So, grab your twin scimitars, steady your moral compass, and prepare to descend. Because this time, Drizzt is not running. He's going home. And hey, if you're wondering how I am balancing all of this eyeliner and existential dread, you already know the product list is in the description below. So, in case you're new here, I put on makeup and tell stories about D&D lore. And you are here for part 3 of our story about Drizzt. So let's catch up. Last time, we watched Drizzt claw his way out of the Underdark into the surface world, where the sun was just rude, and the villagers, well, they were even more rude. And redemption was a full-time job. He found friends, he found family, he even found someone who made him believe that he is more than a blade. But the past, it doesn't just sit quietly back there in the past, because deep down below in Menzoberranzan, I did good that time. Do 3 videos in a row of Drizzt, and then you'll be saying Menzoberranzan. I kind of fucked it that time. Anyways, okay. So down below in Menzoberranzan, Matron Malice Do'Urden, she's seething. Her son didn't just defy her. He didn't just shame the house. He rejected Lolth. He left the web. And now, well, now he's a threat. So Malice does what every overbearing spider mom does when her kid finds healthy boundaries. She summoned demons. Demons, yep. She raises the dead. She also makes deals with Lolth herself. And by golly, it works. She goes and gets the body of Zaknafein, Drizzt's father, his mentor, the only drow that ever showed him any love, and she binds his body to a demon spirit, creating what can only be described as a walking nightmare. See, she doesn't really want Drizzt dead. No, that would be too easy. What she wants is Drizzt shattered. So that's a therapy bill. So if you are a dungeon master that's looking to make their villain completely unforgettable, you can always try making their evil personal. Malice doesn't really want revenge. She wants to unravel Drizzt's entire sense of self. So Drizzt hears the call, feels it in his bones. The hunter stirs again, but this time, he's not going back as prey. He descends into the Underdark one final time, not to run, not to hide, this time to end this. Okay, so imagine this. You have built your whole entire moral code on one person, one being, the one drow who showed you that love and honor could survive in the Underdark. Now, imagine that one person standing in front of you with their sword drawn, their eyes empty, and possessed by a literal demon. Or maybe don't imagine all that, because that's traumatic. I'm just gonna keep talking. Sorry. Anyway, so we have stumbled upon the part of our story where Drizzt experiences his worst day ever. So Zaknafein Do'Urden, well, Drizzt's father, House Do'Urden's weapon master, and the quiet resistance beneath the Spider Queen's regime. He died protecting his son. This color is gorgeous. So, naturally, Matron Malice brings him back. Only this time, there's no love behind the blade. Only wrath, only Lolth. Not a resurrection, a desecration. And Drizzt, oh my God, he is wrecked. He tries so hard to reach him, tries to speak with him, but Zaknafein is this thing, and he has no memory of who he is, who he was. Only the mission that has been burned into his existence by Malice's rituals and Lolth's cruelty. And so they fight, not just with steel, but with history. Every single parry is grief. Every dodge is denial. And when Drizzt finally lands a blow that ends it, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like losing him all over again. But here is where the lore hits different. In those final moments, Zaknafein remembers. He actually says Drizzt's name. And for a breath, the man that he was breaks through the demon that he became. And that one tiny second of recognition, that is what saves Drizzt from spiraling into the hunter again. So a player tip at this moment could be, when you're writing your character's backstory, don't just create pain. Create people that they've loved. Because when those people end up coming back twisted, that's where your story gets teeth. So our boy has had a lot happen to him. Drizzt at this point is kind of hollowed out. Not broken, but barely whole. And this is where the story could have gone really dark again. And some of us who dungeon master and do story writing maybe would have. He could have let the hunter take over. He could have become the sword that he had feared becoming. He could have forgotten the soul altogether. But instead, he does something wild. He actually begins to pray. And don't worry, it's not to Lolth. It's not to vengeance, but instead he prays to Mielikki, the goddess of the forest, of balance, of peace. And it's not some grand ritual. No magic beam, no dramatic monologue. Just a wounded ranger kneeling in the snow and asking, is there still good in me? And, well, Mielikki doesn't answer with thunder. She answers with silence. But that silence is a sanctuary. Mercy is the power that Lolth fears the most. I mean, anyone can swing a sword, but if someone is choosing not to kill when you absolutely could have, that is what makes you dangerous in a world that feeds on fear. So, from this point on, Drizzt doesn't just survive. He leads. He goes and defends the Icewind Dale. He becomes a legend. And not because he is the best swordsman, even though he might be. And certainly not because he's the most tragic, when he might also be that, but because he chose to be kind when nobody else was. And if you're a dungeon master and you are running a character as divine as Drizzt, you don't have to make faith all about power. Make it about choice. Make it about what your character believes in when no one else is watching. So here's the thing about legends, babe. They don't just end when the swords go quiet. Drizzt doesn't vanish after the Underdark. He doesn't pull a Galadriel and retreat into the woods forever. No. He becomes known all across Faerûn. His name spreads. And the surface dwellers that once flinched at the sight of a dark elf, they start telling stories of a ranger with twin blades, a warrior that walked away from evil. He becomes a symbol, and not just for the drow, but for anyone who's ever been told that they don't belong. Over in Neverwinter, the bards, they're singing his praises, all about his battles. In Icewind Dale, children name their sled dogs after him. Even in the Underdark, whispered tales of the traitor, well, they start to shift into something more of reverence. And you know what the most wild part of this is? He never asked for it. He didn't want to be famous. Really, all he wanted was to be free, to think for himself. And somehow, that's the thing that made him completely unforgettable. So, a player tip. If you want to play a character that leaves their mark on a campaign world, don't chase power. Chase truth. The most powerful stories, they come from characters who live what they believe, even when it hurts. So, Drizzt Do'Urden, he wasn't supposed to survive. He's been fighting death since the day he was born. And he was born into a society that worshipped cruelty. Raised in a house that was built on blood. He was trained to kill before he could trust. He was exiled, hunted, betrayed again and again. And even after all of that, he still chose to be good. And not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but simply because it was right. He could have absolutely become the hunter forever. He could have let grief define him. He could have let Intrari's blade, Zaknafein's ghost, and Malice's rage, he could have let all of that turn him into a warning. But instead, he became a beacon. He was the dark elf who walks in light, the ranger who defends the innocent, the soul who said, I am not what they made me. And in my humble opinion, that isn't just D&D lore. That is literature. That is legend. And now, he's so much more than a character. He is a symbol of resistance, of redemption, of hope, especially when the world says that you don't deserve it. So to you players still watching, don't be afraid to let your character grow, to heal. And to my DMs out there, your villains can tear down, but make sure that your heroes have a chance to build back up, because that's where the story lives. And that is the story of Drizzt Do'Urden, our drow hero, our exile-born, our scimitar-wielding moral compass comes to a close. But what a journey it's been. So we have our final look. I might be obsessed with this eyeshadow. Yeah. Okay. And if you felt something today, if this story lit up your chaotic little gamer mind, I hope you come back for another one. Drop a comment below and tell me what your favorite part about Drizzt is. And if you haven't had your fill of sass and lore, check out this video here. I'm Betty Rage, your favorite nerdy goth mom, and this is Lashes and Lore. Stay radiant, stay brave, and as always, free mom hugs from me to you. Bye! I'll see you next time.